All right. Thanks everyone for joining this morning. We're going to do a little bit of an abbreviated session this morning on OmniDEC. And today we're going to be focusing a little bit more on industry, in the construction industry as it relates to project deadlines and reducing margin fade. So we're going to dive into the industry a little bit more than we normally do, and then show how OmniDEC can and does with our customers help them reduce margin fade and help them better meet project deadlines. As we know, there's a lot of factors that come into play in these 2 points. And so we'll talk about a few of those today. We're certainly not going to cover everything, but we'll do a little bit more of a CFMA style meeting and talk on how OmniDEC will meet those problems that we're having on a day-to-day basis. All right, so what are some of the essentials to protect job dates and margin? A lot of consultants out there, you talk about what to do to protect these. They say you got to have a good WIP schedule. Your reporting and work in process is essential, and it starts with accurate estimating. We're not going to dive into estimating today, but understanding how to estimate labor, material, and equipment is the most crucial. The second point here really requires your ability to provide to the field and to the office applications that are easy to use so that they will enter the data on a timely basis, right? Many customers we talk to, they're using 3, 5, sometimes even 6 applications out in the field, and hence we have tech adoption issues. No wonder, right? On our last webinar, we talked about how to simplify technology for the field, and what it really boiled down to was, are we making it difficult for them to enter the information to get the kind of reporting we need? Well, we are as a construction industry, and it's no wonder that the senior guys out in the field don't want to spend time in the trailer and they want to spend time on the job. So if we were able to give them something that's a little more simple to use, maybe in 1 or 2 apps instead of 4 or 5, we'll start to get that real-time reporting that we're looking for, right? And then finally, the construction industry is notorious for this, but if we've got paper change orders and purchase orders, documents rolling around the field, this is going to be a problem. We don't know what we don't see. So, many many market research firms, McKinsey, Gartner, they've been out there and for 20 years, they've been telling us that it costs about 12 to 18 bucks per piece of paper to handle paper manually. So everything from double entry to miscoding things because we couldn't understand what was written on the piece of paper, or it was left in the truck or left in somebody's desk somewhere, right? So we find out about these later in the job oftentimes, and it steals margin from the job invariably. Accurate calculations of labor, materials, and equipment we just mentioned. Obviously, if we're doing 1 to 2 day duration jobs, that's going to be more of a time and material or cost plus in many cases. But the fact doesn't change. What doesn't get recorded doesn't get billed. So again, we have to start to automate and bring things to a paperless system, and hopefully not build an app-ageddon, as we call it here at OmniDEC, of a bunch of apps that don't really talk to each other, right? So what does your app stack look like? If you're talking to a consultant for Sage or Viewpoint or whatever ERP system you work with, you might go to them and say, hey, can you make some recommendations for us? We're using 8 apps today to run our business between our accounting system, between Slack and our time collection and HR onboarding and daily reporting, project management, whatever. Let's make a list of those apps, how much we're paying for them, and what integrations they have. And maybe we can go back to our consultants and ask them for some recommendations of, can we reduce the amount of software as a service spend we have in our app stack? And also, do we have the ability to reduce the app stack quantity and maybe increase integration, right? That's really the name of the game. As we talked about in the last webinar, we get into this world where Appageddon is causing a problem where each one of these apps that we bought might be the A player in the industry. They might give us real-time data, but they don't give us real-time data across all departments, right? So when we're using Power BI or Antera or one of these business analytics tools, it doesn't give us the data that we need real time because it's junk in, junk out, right? So having integration across the board is really where construction is going, and integration with one app is more of an archaic idea. So what does your working process look like? So, before example, we've got a quick calculation here. Feel free to use this, but um, our before example of working process, at the beginning of the job, we did our estimates, we generated our schedule of values, and we start doing our buyout process, and we find that that we wanted a 15.8% margin. That's what we calculated we could get between the estimate of labor, material, and equipment. But we know that 15.8% is going to change. We just aren't sure typically what's going to change it, right? So we've got some formulas here on how we got to this number from our original estimated total contract, our gross contract amount at 79,000, and our total cost incurred at this point would be 23,492. I don't have the calculation on here, but that leaves us, I think, at 27% complete thus far. But the after picture oftentimes looks very different, right? So our estimated total contract was still 93, but our total costs incurred at 100% complete here was 86 instead of the 79 where we thought it would be. So it brought our margin back down to about 8.4%. So we got about half the margin that we thought we would get. Unfortunately, this is the doomsday scenario for a lot of longer jobs, especially for general contractors. So what are some of the big factors that we know all too well that are stealing this job margin? Some of those are late change orders. Purchase orders are one of the thieves here as well. And many times we get a scenario where the guys out in the field, man, they just need six more pieces of lumber, or they need some caulk and a little bit of wire. And so they just run to the parts house. They go to Sherwin-Williams or Home HD Supply, whatever it is. They pick them up on the company credit card, and that gets sent in a receipt. And we hope that gets coded to a job, right? Well, sometimes it doesn't. So these are costs that did not get coded to that particular job, and we end up paying for it as the general contractor or as a subcontractor. This happens all the time. Another one, equipment usage not reported. And these all fit into technology, right? What's not getting reported is not getting seen, and thus is not getting billed. Many times you see yellow iron out on the site, and it typically not in the rental space, but if we own equipment, we don't many times have a lock on the rates that we should be billing for that equipment. Sometimes we don't have good maintenance schedules, and that equipment might be used or borrowed from another location, but not recorded on that usage. How many hours did we use that on this job? Did that get recorded and coded and billed to the job so that the customer is paying for it and not our company out of our own capital? Same thing with underestimated labor. So, if things are tight, it's a cutthroat market. There's jobs everywhere, but we really, really need to get that job, and we don't want our competitor to get it before us. It's not, rare to see somebody might really skinny up the labor that's needed for that job, right? So that ends up biting us near the end of the job. So estimating labor, it really, really comes to, you can't change it in the middle of the job if it was underestimated, but you can track it on a daily report or on a weekly basis a little bit more tight to see, are we starting to fall off on our estimate? We should be 48% complete on labor, but instead we're only 38% complete, right? These are things that we can catch early and start to implement some factors that will help us save a little bit more margin and not lose as much as we might at the end of the job. Miscoded expenses. Gosh, how many times have we seen stuff get coded to the wrong cost code or the wrong job? This type of stuff happens all the time as well. And all of this is a result of manual paper rolling around or lack of integration between applications. So what are some things that steal time from the job as well, besides margin? Well, weather's the big one, and there's usually some type of clause in our contracts that give us a grace period or a padding for a certain amount of weather issues, right? Um, but on our daily reports, are the daily reports coming in on paper, and are we accurately, or are we even inputting what the weather was on that day? As we know, when anybody who goes to litigation, whoever has the most documentation wins. And so it's really critical that we've got a good solid daily report that's automated, that's helping us track equipment usage, maintenance schedules, time, production, weather. All of these things are critical to making sure that we're protected in litigation. If there are any issues or project delays, we're protected there. Our insurances have backup, and in our bonding, especially in performance bonding, when we've got poor contractor performance issues, we're able to document that and make sure that we're protected on the job as well. And lastly, here in equipment failures and repairs, how many times on a job have we had yellow iron there that, the backhoe broke down, and so we have to borrow that backhoe from somewhere else, or maybe we've got to go rent it because we have to get this done by tomorrow, get this hole dug so we can start to pour concrete. Well, if we got to rent it, is that rental rate high? Are we losing out on that? Did we get the failed piece of equipment to somebody, to a mechanic for repair? Is any of this documented, or did we just tell somebody and send a voicemail and a text message or an email? Right. So these are a lot of the things that are very common that slip through the cracks on any particular construction job. So how can we start to solve some of this? It all boils down to integration, ease of use for the guys in the field to enter the data, and then having something that can give us cross departmental reporting. On the left here, we see a world where we've got multiple applications that don't talk to each other, and they might be putting information or even pulling information from our ERP system if we've got really good integrations here. That's the world we live in, which we call Appageddon. Most companies are doing this. On the right side, we see OmniDEC stepping in sort of as a wrapper to our ERP or job cost accounting system. And now we have the opportunity to bring these apps all in OmniDEC. Now, I don't mean take them and bring them into OmniDEC. I mean, let OmniDEC do the field services project management. Let it handle your information technology requests, your data analytics. Let it handle your purchasing and HR. So these are the types of things, and expenses. These are the types of things that can start to really mitigate a lot of these project delays and margin fade issues that we've been experiencing. So we look at OmniDEC kind of on this assembly line approach. Real simply put, if your guys out in the field or guys and gals in the office, if they can fill out a form with drop downs and sign something, then they can use OmniDEC forms, right? If they can chat, they're using Facebook or Instagram or some social media. If they can chat and approve, they can use OmniDEC. And then finally, if they can drag and drop what they want into a report, very, very easy to use, they can use our insights. So that's all OmniDEC is. Training is pretty easy. It's not hard to get a consultant or get an employee, a field employee onto OmniDEC. But appreciate that if we did some training and we got them used to this process on an expense report. Now, if we wanted to implement a daily report or a time card, it's the same process. They don't have to learn a new application. So we've really, really dramatically increased the amount of time it takes to onboard a new employee or a new app. It's just a new process in OmniDEC. And in fact, we've done some studies on our customer base, and the amount of time that it takes to onboard a new processes versus a new app is 90% increase in efficiency in our customers. So this really is the replacement to the traditional business office, or what we've created as Appageddon. And some example use cases that we see all the time we can venture far outside of this and create sort of custom processes, help you with that. Although a lot of our customers, they build their own processes. It's that easy. You don't have to be a programmer to use it. But HR onboarding, I have a very good experience, and I'll show you here today just real quickly what my own onboarding process looked like in OmniDEC. But daily reports, work orders for service work orders, warranty work orders, expense reports is a big one. Service tickets through portals. We might need a customer portal or a vendor portal to exchange documents, mark them up. Um, Time collection's a big one. Purchase orders and change orders is huge. Uh, Task management to assign tasks out to different people in the company, pre-qual forms, even payment applications, and departmental requests. So these are just a few. If you need more use cases, give us a shout. We'd love to give you a list of what we commonly see even further than what we see here. So we'll talk a little bit about some implementation strategies, what our customers see. I come from the ERP world, worked with Sage for quite a while, worked with Viewpoint quite a while. And I got to tell you, implementing a job cost accounting system is a bear. It can take between, 5, 6 months to a year or longer, depending on what's needed. And that type of hit on staff production and frankly, staff morale makes that a tough decision for many companies, but they have to make that decision at some point, right, to upgrade. Well, when we use OmniDEC, we're able to come in and supplement multiple applications without having to come in and burden operations at a high degree. There's some customers we've gotten implemented in a week or a couple of afternoons. So if they've got just a few processes they want to onboard, and sometimes implementation can take a little bit longer depending on the types of processes they want to accomplish. So this is OmniDEC. It's a single page application. Again, there's no code here. So it's going to be very easy to use for the end user, not just the admin. And this is sort of like my Outlook inbox. So these are the tasks and things that I need to approve, maybe help fill out or code a little bit further. And so I can come in here and start to code anything that I need. For instance, I've got an expense report here. I might come in, take a look at this. This was filled out by Angela. Jim approved it, and it looks like I still need to approve it. So I can take a look at this, make sure the hours are coded correctly. I've got some mileage in here, and if this has everything I need in it, I can go ahead and chat if I've got a question, or just click approve, and then this is done. So I'll just put thanks. All right, so now then that takes me to my next form here. So working in OmniDEC is very, very easy. A lot of times customers don't know where to start, so they can come to the marketplace and go shopping for forms that might be relevant to their need. So across departments, we've got a lot of forms here, and our customers will come up with new ones all the time, and we'll implement those sometimes into the marketplace. So I may come in here into payroll and decide, you know what, we need a new time card. We've been looking for a time collection app, but we really don't want to spend another $20,000. Well, fine. You already own OmniDEC. We'll come in and download one of these free forms. And so I may come in here and, let's look at this hourly employee time card. That's probably pretty simple. I'll add that to my library, or I can just take a look at it if I want to see, does this kind of fit what I want to do? Well, it looks pretty close. It's got individual employee time. I can cost code the information, put it to a job, whatever I need. So I added that to my library here, and then that would show up here on my dashboard. So I could come back in here and then complete that time card or edit it if I needed to. So I'll come into my form designer, and let's go edit one of these forms that we added from the library. I'll just pick an expense report here. And this is where it really sets OmniDEC apart from a lot of other forms or workflow systems, which OmniDEC is more of an intranet portal like Nike or one of these big companies might have, and they're spending millions of dollars on. Well, small to medium construction companies don't have that kind of money, but you can do these types of things with OmniDEC. So, I may come into my expense report and say, you know what, we need to make sure that there's a receipt image on every expense report. So let's look at what questions and answers we can drag and drop here that help us do that? Well, maybe we just add a yes or no question, and then we call this receipt. Well, that's super easy to do. And now when they fill out this form, maybe they're filling it out on their phone. This is kind of what it would look like on the phone. It's going to adapt to whatever device that they're on. So super easy to do that. But now they would click yes or no, and we can report on every field that's in every form. So it doesn't matter what the fields are. Now this is reportable. So show me every receipt for the month of June that did not I'm sorry, show me every expense report in the month of June that did not have a receipt associated with it. Very easy to do. Also, these forms are going to do math for us. So I've got some expenses here. You see this Z7, B9. These are like cell references inside of Excel. So if we know Excel at a basic level, we can come in here and do some expressions. Like for instance, here at the bottom, this is doing math for mileage reimbursement. Maybe our rate is not 0.55, it's 0.545. So we can edit that and it's going to do the math for us. So very, very easy to do. And if we wanted to get a little more complex with this, we can just drag one of our clusters here to the bottom. Let's just act like I'm creating a new daily report. So instead of going to some company and asking them to custom create a daily report, oftentimes we evaluate new applications and they get 90% of the way there, and we find the one that's the closest to what we need. You don't have to do that anymore. Break down that box of features and build the box that you want. So I may just come in here and call this daily report and then I just name my tabs. So I'll configure the tab here, and there's nothing crazy here. I might just call this first one labor, and then I'm going to just say, what do I want in this grid? So these assets here are just list lookups. So we can connect to an Excel spreadsheet. You might have a tool list or a price list. We could connect to, many times your ERP system, pull and push data. So, might want the job here, employee, and cost code, and then number of hours. Right? So we might want to cost this out to like repeating assets or 7-day, but I may just put repeating assets here. Now, what's great about this, I'm going to just do this one example, but I'll call this job. And this is how hard it is to connect it to our job list. So we do this setup in our basic setup and training and do these connections so that you can just come in here and call it what it is. So now, we might do this one as material or equipment. I've literally built an application here in 30 seconds. So that's how hard it is to do this in OmniDEC. Very, very easy to build this stuff out. So let me show you a couple of examples of when we're talking about reducing margin fade and meeting project deadlines. A lot of those points we spoke on, what is the automation and the reporting that we can start to make really easy here in OmniDEC? Well, let's go ahead and start with a change order here. That'd be a good one. Any purchase orders are going to start to capture that stuff, those Home Depot runs, and prevent that. Change orders, hey, we're not going to have to wait till the end of the job or 3 weeks late to get a change order in. That's going to steal our margin, which is notorious on construction projects. We can do that now here. And again, if we're filling out a change order and the guy just has his tablet or a phone, it's still super easy for them to view this and fill out this form that is integrated with your current systems, right? So I'm going to come in here and just select the job. I don't have this particular one connected, but can fill out the data that I need. If I've got some labor stuff going on here, I might say this is eight hours at $20 an hour. It's going to do my math. And let's see if I've got some labor codes here. That's a text field. So I'm going to go ahead and here put 10 hours at $25, and then do one more tab for 8 hours at $15, right? Now I want to see this in a grid. So see, it's going to make everything pretty digestible for me here. And as they're filling out this change order, maybe they take a picture of something, add some comments, and at the bottom, they're going to go ahead and sign it. So now once they save this change order that they can fill out in a few seconds, it's going to save that and then show the members. Maybe one of the guys is not on the workflow because he's out on vacation. We need to pull someone else in. Easy to do. Let's pull Brad in here, and because he's on the job supplementing, so he can approve this change order. I don't have time to wait to get this change order approved. Many times that happens and it's approved with a handshake and we move forward with the contractor. Well, that doesn't have to happen anymore. Now Brad's aware, and I can say, hey, Brad, take a look at this. And so now Brad's going to get that message and email, and it'll show him the comment. And if he presses the button on the email, it'll take him straight back into this form so he can approve it. So really, really easy to fill out those forms like that. Now, what about workflow? Many times applications make this very difficult, and there's a bottleneck in where workflows of approval are going to go, or the criteria of which we can route on. So some systems only route on job or one thing or another, and they don't have a lot of flexibility. I'll just pick a sample form here. You get to decide as a customer of OmniDEC what your process is. So kind of like Microsoft Visio, that can even be somewhat complicated if you're not used to it, but let's use OmniDEC to whiteboard our process. So every change order that comes in, once it's started and filled out, let's say I want that to go to project management. So I'll pick my hierarchy node. This is just going to kind of be a department, right? So I don't know, I'll say accounting here, or we've got our construction department right here. Perfect. We want it to go to construction first. And then we want to add a condition where any change order that comes in that's over a certain dollar amount, it needs to go to someone else. So let me find total amount here. We'll pick amount and greater than 1,500 bucks. So if a change order comes in for more than 1,500 bucks, it needs to go to the COO, and I'll just pick the user right here. See, there's Brad again. And then I want it to go to accounting for entry or final approval and entry. But if it's below 1,500 bucks, maybe we just want it to go to accounting, and we'll pick the user there. So here in 10, 15 seconds, I've created a workflow of approval that will span for this form across all departments. So very, very easy to complete this within the system. The system does ship with a hierarchical structure. You can see I've got my multiple departments here. I've got my pre-construction department, accounting, there's purchasing, there's the warehouse, equipment yard. These circles are actual portals that customers or vendors can come into and exchange information, fill out forms, do some reporting. And then these squares are my different departments. So let's say that one of the guys from estimating is going to move from estimating to our construction division, or the pre-construction to construction. He's done really good work for us, and we want to move him up to the construction as a project manager. Well, that's fine. All we have to do is, let's see, I don't have any users added in here, but all we have to do is go to the construction division, add users. We'll just pick Toby here. And then we added that user. Now, what just happened is all of the forms and processes and workflows of approval associated with the construction division at somebody at his level of security in the system, he just inherited all of that, all of those forms, all the workflows of approval. We don't have to reset that up for Toby. It just happened in literally one click. So, and we can go on and customize those things if we need to further. But if you lose an employee and onboard a new one, they inherit all of those forms and processes. So what we're starting to do is build this idea of integration, more simplicity to encourage the entry of data now instead of at the end of the week when we forgot what to code it to, or we forgot how many hours we worked on that job. Those things start to go away and fade away. And what doesn't fade away is margin. So let's take a look at how are we going to start to get this real-time information. Now, since we're not scanning in as much the 8.5 by 11, now we're starting to get all of the data that's on that 8.5 by 11 is reportable and searchable because it's being entered in an online form. We can start to use our reports here, like our insights, and to do a new report, super easy. I'm just going to do one I did on expense reports here, and every form field that we dragged and dropped into those forms they're all reportable and searchable. So all my expenses, my mileage, everything that I put on there, this is all reportable and searchable. I'm going to take the full view here, just show you everything we've got here. You know, I might be looking at, let's see, this one, I already put vendor here on top. So maybe we've got a new vendor. You remember those performance issues we were dealing with on the job that slowed job production that we caught too late? Well, we don't have to deal with that and have to maybe leverage some of our performance bonding. Now we take a look at that vendor and we can see everything that they've done on the job. So show me everything for Cadam right here. They're doing some work for us, and let's see how much work that they've done. What have they coded it to? Has it all been approved? Have there been any comments? Well, let me take a look at one of these forms. We may have a new guy on. So I can look at this and say, you know what? Who was involved in this approval? So I'll look at my audit log. Or let's go ahead and type a message that will go to everybody that's involved in this workflow of approval. Why was this held? Now they're going to get that message. Super easy to pull these reports. I can export them to Excel. And then finally, we have something here called channels, and this gives you the ability sort of, instead of having the file folder, the manila folder in, or in your server somewhere or in a filing cabinet somewhere, now I'm creating folders based on data on the information I want. Like for instance, I've got a folder for this job. It's got every form filled out for this job in chronological order, regardless of who it's by. And I can see, look, there was one daily report entered, daily progress, one regular daily report, 3 expense reports. And then for my ERP system, it's referencing all of the data for that particular job, the demographic data. So everybody who's assigned to this job, all my project managers, all my estimators, everybody that's involved, now I can type a message to them and they'll all get it. What about if we had a new project manager we hired, or we've got, a new piece of equipment? We want to make sure we're billing the rates correctly. Here, I created one on my John Deere backhoe. Are we billing the new rate? Now, anybody that's been using that backhoe is going to get that message. So, and then I've got all my data here in the middle from my ERP system on that backhoe for reference sake. So maybe we're at the rental place. We look on our phone in OmniDEC and we need to see what model backhoe we had so we can get the right one with the right horsepower, right, to accomplish the job. Well, that data is right here. We don't have to call anyone. So we're really starting to create this environment and this ecosystem of real-time data and integration. What this enables us to do ultimately is stuff like what we do at OmniDEC. We use OmniDEC at OmniDEC. The only other apps we use is our accounting system, Sage, and we also use HubSpot for marketing. But here at OmniDEC, this is some of our real-time support hours. Like for instance, Caretaker Landscape, they bought 14 hours of extra support from us or consulting, and we've completed 12.25 hours. So this is all real time, and this is pulling from OmniDEC. We literally do everything in OmniDEC. So now we don't have junk in, junk out on our data analytics. Now as an owner or a CFO or COO, we're able to make job decisions quickly when we notice an issue. So it's not when you notice an issue, it's if. So now we've given our customers the ability, or our vendors the ability to help us with these decisions, to work as a team to complete this job on time. So let's go through just a couple more examples here and then we'll wrap up. I'd like to show you an example of a daily report. These are crucial, and sometimes we're collecting time in a time application. We're doing equipment in TrackQuip or some other equipment module, and then we've got a safety application. Well, why don't we just do it all in one report? Like for instance, here's a daily report we created in OmniDEC. You saw me create something kind of like this with the tab setups. Super easy to do, but I've got my timesheet right here. We've got a customer called Parfab out in, they're an oil and gas customer. And when their employees come into the office, they walk in actually to the warehouse. They've got a facial recognition scanner that sees their face, and we pull the data. We're not part of that system, but we do pull the data from that system and it fills out the time card for them with craft type. And so this is able to actually go to their accounting department, and with one quick approval, it drops into their payroll system. I mean, think about that kind of automation. Well, we can read a weighing scale, or whatever type of IoT device in the field, we can typically read that information and pull it into OmniDEC. So now we've got this timesheet filled out. We can start to chat with the members instead of emailing or texting or calling. And maybe we want to do some productivity. So we're actually talking about bricks laid or units laid here, and we've got our percent complete based off of what the unit estimate was. Many of our customers are doing this. We're pulling in the schedule of values. We're actually tracking production units and pushing that production back into their ERP system. You talk about having a good WIP. This is how you have a good WIP. You make it easy for people to document production and have it easily approved and easily pushed back, integrated into their accounting system to update their WIP report. So this is the new era of construction technology and adoption. And this is how we're going to make these jobs a lot easier. So one more thing I'll show you here. We're actually working with Sage software, and they're going to be including OmniDEC on a lot of the Sage Intact stuff. And I think I have one here. They've got a production report that we built for them. There's a lot of different flavors of this, but they can come in. You see my cost code's not coming up. Well, that's because I haven't picked one of the locations. I haven't picked a job yet. Once I start to pick a job, my information pops up. So the system is going to filter off of relevant information. It's not just everything you put in there, right? Is it on track? Who was the task owner? Any notes that we have? Well, let's go ahead and start to put our cost codes in units of measure. So this is going to be in linear feet, the budgeted amount. We can have this automatically populate from the schedule of values. We'll put our date on here and how many units have we laid to date. And we installed, 25. So it's going to do our percent complete for us. We can put any notes, add multiple line items if we need, start to chat around this and go ahead and send this back in. So that's going to be Dustin, right? So this is the kind of stuff that we want to start doing instead of doing this in multiple applications. The last thing I'm going to point out here, if you've got use cases where you've got a service department that has trucks and they're pulling inventory from a warehouse, right? I'll give you one more example here. This is Caretaker. I like to pick on them a lot. They're one of our shining customers, and they had a part-time admin that filled out or created these processes. She's not a programmer. She created the processes for their entire company, and they're just a shining example of how much OmniDEC can change a company for the better. So let me see if I've got an inventory transfer form here. Yeah. So this is their site. So what they're doing is we've got an inventory source location. So I'm going to just pick one of their trucks here and pick an item off the truck. So we've got a lot of items here that are inventory on the truck. And this is not just daily. This is synced up to the hour of relevant information. I think they might be doing an anytime sync here. But if I go to a different truck, like this particular truck, see that one's got items on it too. Let's see what we got. Here we go. See, this truck is a new truck and it doesn't have any items on it. They didn't take anything from the warehouse and put it on here. So their inventory is up to date by location and it changes by the hour. And so they had a extremely manual process with Excel spreadsheets and paper and phone call and email to handle their inventory process before. Now they're doing this in just a few forms, and it's updating and syncing with their current systems, and just made this completely automated. So really, really cool stuff we're able to do here. We got them implemented pretty quickly, and actually saved them from a botched SharePoint implementation. They had dumped about $300,000 in, and OmniDEC has just changed their world. So really appreciative of them. Would love to show you more examples here, but I'm going to go ahead and close with this. A lot of people ask, when we're looking at OmniDEC, it looks like it can do a lot of stuff. It looks really easy to use, but where would we start? So sometimes we'll do custom projects and a company wants to jump into something big like maybe they need a sales order system that does negotiated rates on labor, right? Or whatever it is. We can sort of help and create some of those custom processes, but we typically recommend, hey, jump into OmniDEC for kind of our smallest package on a month to month and start with a single process. Start with an expense report or a simple time card or a work order or a purchase order, something like that. Super easy to start with. You can get implemented literally in probably a week or two and start to experience the system. A lot of our customers will start like that. And then as they become more comfortable with the system, they'll add a process or add another process and a few more users. And eventually it starts to become this infectious, really, really good and healing automation in their company. So management now has something that they can easily implement new process improvements instead of applications and eliminate all that new software as a service cost. We didn't touch on this today, but extranet portals like vendor portals, customer portals, new hire portals are easy to accomplish in OmniDEC. I can literally spin up a new portal in a matter of seconds. We have the portals already built and you can just customize them and add forms from there. Um, and ultimately, are we really creating a secure environment for that's easy to use, that we don't have to worry about people coming into and damaging our data or stealing stuff from our data? We're on the Azure cloud, and we operate on a very secure platform with OmniDEC. And instead of having 8 different applications where you've got 8 different sources that can be tampered with, now you just have this one and it's highly secure. So with that, I appreciate you guys sitting on my soapbox with me and taking a look at OmniDEC. Here's my contact information. So feel free to reach out to me. We've talked a little bit about project deadlines and margin fade and how to protect that here today. We'd be glad to visit with you further and give you a customized demo. And also visit us at www.omnidec.com. And we'd love to book a demo with you there, and you can get more information there. But I want to go ahead and open it up for questions. If anybody has some questions, you can use our chat feature as well if you'd like to, and I'll go ahead and open it up. All right. Well, if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and tie it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for taking part of your day out and spending it with us. And hopefully we'll talk soon. Thanks a lot.